There is a truth about women that most men never learn until it's too late. A truth that whispers at the edges of every failed relationship, every quiet heartbreak, every moment a man wonders how devotion turned into invisibility. And here is the part no one tells you. There is a psychological trigger in women that almost no man knows, yet every man has felt its consequences. It is the trigger that decides whether she cherishes you or takes you for granted, whether she leans in or pulls away, whether your presence becomes a gift or background noise. Most men stumble into this truth only after they've already lost themselves in someone who never feared losing them. They think love fails because of communication, timing, incompatibility, but the real shift happens long before the breakup. It happens in the quiet moments when she stops believing you can walk away and starts believing she owns your loyalty. Brother, this video will expose the psychology behind that shift. You're going to see why she only values what she believes she can lose, why your effort often backfires, and why calm detachment ignites more respect than relentless devotion ever could. By the end of this lesson, you will understand the hidden mechanism beneath every woman's changing behavior, and more importantly, how to reclaim the power you gave away without even noticing. And before we go deeper, anchor yourself right here. If you are or have been the man who stayed too long, gave too much, or held on too tightly because you feared losing her, take this moment for yourself. Like this video if you've ever felt your worth disappear in someone else's comfort. Comment, value shift. So I know you're not just watching, you're awakening to your own importance. Share this with a brother who's still twisting himself into knots to be enough. Start this journey now with Stoic Station, where silence becomes strength and strength becomes identity. Because what comes next will reveal the first harsh truth every man must face. She never values what she thinks she owns. And once you understand why, everything about love, respect, and your place in a woman's life will change forever. Let's dive in. 1. She never values what she thinks she owns. Brother, she didn't value you because she believed you would never leave. That's the painful truth most men don't learn until the damage is already done. A woman only values the man she knows she can lose. As long as she believes your loyalty is permanent, your presence becomes the quiet background of her life, comfortable, predictable, and taken for granted. You kept showing up. You kept proving yourself. You kept holding on even when she had already drifted emotionally, believing your consistency would bring her back. But instead of appreciating the love you were trying so hard to protect, she slowly stopped respecting it. She didn't see your devotion as strength. She saw it as something guaranteed. This is the pattern so many men fall into in their late 30s and early 40s, carrying the entire relationship on their shoulders while she relaxes into your effort, expecting you to do more even as she gives less. You confuse endurance with leadership. She confuses your loyalty with helplessness. And in the quiet moments you don't talk about, you start to feel the weight of being the only one still fighting. The harder you try to hold the connection together, the more invisible you become. And it's not because you're not enough. It's because your effort confirms the one belief that kills attraction at its core. She has nothing to lose. When a woman senses that you'll stay no matter how she behaves, something shifts inside her. The urgency disappears, the intentionality fades, effort becomes optional, and respect begins to erode because she no longer sees you as a man choosing her, but as a man trapped in her emotional gravity. That's when she replaces gratitude with entitlement. That's when commitment starts feeling like captivity. And that's when she stops valuing the very qualities she once cherished, your reliability, your presence, your patience, because she believes they'll always be there. Once a woman believes she can't lose you, she stops seeing what you bring as a gift and starts treating it like a default setting. Your devotion becomes something she assumes, not something she honors. But everything changes the moment you let go, not dramatically, not with anger, not with ultimatums, but calmly. The moment you stop trying to convince her of your value, your emotional sovereignty returns. Your silence gains weight. Your absence becomes information. And without raising your voice or fighting for clarity, you show her a version of yourself she didn't expect. A man who chooses peace over proving himself. A man who can walk away without collapsing. A man who knows that connection means nothing without mutual respect. That's when she feels the shift in her chest. The man she took for granted becomes the man she suddenly fears losing. The man she ignored becomes the mirror she must now face. And the presence she once dismissed becomes the standard no one else can match. Because your calm departure forces her to confront something she never prepared for, the realization that she misread your strength, that she underestimated your capacity to walk away, and that you were not anchored to her approval the way she assumed. But brother, the moment you walk away calmly, something even greater collapses inside her. The illusion that she had all the time in the world to decide your worth. Tonight, write down 3 boundaries you ignored because you were afraid of losing her. Tomorrow, remove one of them from your behavior. Start reclaiming yourself piece by piece, because the man who chooses himself is the man she finally sees clearly. 2. Her entitlement breaks the moment you stop playing the role. Brother, she didn't stop respecting you because you left. She stopped respecting you because she thought you never would. Men don't lose women. Women lose respect. And they lose it the moment they believe you'll tolerate anything just to keep them close. Somewhere along the way, you stopped being her partner and became her emotional safety net. The man who always replied, always apologized, always fixed the mess, even when she was the one breaking things. You didn't intend to create entitlement, but you did. She grew accustomed to your effort, relied on your consistency, assumed your stability, and treated your reliability as something automatic. And as that comfort settled in, she slowly stopped giving anything in return. This is where so many men in their late 30s and early 40s get trapped. Not because they are weak, but because they mistake over-functioning for love. You step into every gap. You soften every conflict. You patch every emotional hole she creates. And without realizing it, the relationship becomes one-sided. She experiences the benefits of your effort without the responsibility of reciprocating it. But entitlement has one fatal weakness. It only survives when you continue feeding it. The moment you stop playing the role, the moment you step back without chaos, without argument, without raising your voice, the entire structure she built collapses under its own weight. Because now her usual escape routes disappear. She can't blame your tone. She can't blame your reaction. She can't blame exhaustion, drama, or emotional tension. Your calmness eliminates every excuse. And she's left standing in front of the one realization she spent months avoiding. If he left calmly, maybe I was the problem. A peaceful withdrawal forces accountability in a way explanations never could. Your silence becomes the courtroom. Your absence becomes the verdict. Without your constant reassurance shielding her from the truth, she must finally evaluate her own contribution, her dismissiveness, her imbalance, her lack of effort, her growing assumption that you would never reach a breaking point. For the first time, she sees exactly what she offered and what she withheld. She sees the moments you overextended, the moments she minimized, the moments she acted as if your loyalty was unconditional. And the man she assumed would always remain becomes the man she now fears she pushed too far. Your withdrawal doesn't just disrupt her expectations, it rewrites her understanding of who you are. Because the moment you stop playing the role she cast you in, she recognizes she never understood your strength at all. But brother, silence doesn't just expose her behavior, it turns into a mirror. Tonight, identify one pattern where you were giving more than receiving. This week, stop initiating in that dynamic. Let the imbalance reveal itself, not to punish her, but to remind yourself that real connection cannot grow in a space where your effort carries the entire weight. 3. Silence is the mirror she can't escape. Brother. She never understood you when you spoke. She finally understood you when you stopped. A woman can argue with your words, twist them, defend against them, or pretend she didn't hear them, but she cannot argue with your silence. Silence is the one language she cannot interrupt, cannot manipulate, and cannot outrun. You tried explaining, and she defended herself rather than understanding you. You tried fixing, and she withdrew, forcing you to carry the emotional weight alone. You tried proving your worth, and she devalued it because effort given without boundaries becomes invisible. Your effort didn't bring clarity, it created noise. The more you talked, the more she used your words as armor instead of guidance. You weren't speaking too much, she simply wasn't listening. Every man eventually learns this truth the hard way. Silence reveals what speaking conceals. Your absence exposes the emotional labor you carried, the steadiness you provided, and the stability she never had to consider because you were always there. The moment you go quiet, not as manipulation, but as self-respect, the loss she never believed she would feel begins to surface. When your warmth disappears, she notices the cold. When your presence fades, she recognizes the void. When your emotional labor stops, she realizes how much you bridged the distance between you. When your reliability vanishes, she confronts the weight of standing on her own. And without any of those things, the truth rises quietly to the surface. She didn't appreciate what she had until it was no longer given freely. That's when the comparison begins. Not because she chooses to compare, but because your calmness and your absence stand in sharp contrast to the neediness of other men. She sees your restraint and remembers how other men collapse emotionally. She sees your dignity and recalls how easily others chase validation. She sees your emotional strength and realizes how rare it actually is in the world of grown men. And in that recognition, she finally understands something her ego couldn't accept when you were still there. You were the rare one. Your silence becomes the transformation she never saw coming. It dismantles her denial, the story she told herself to justify her behavior. It softens her ego because silence removes the battlefield where her defensiveness once thrived. It forces reflection, to look at what she contributed, what she ignored, and what she broke. And reflection can only lead to two paths: regret or renewed respect. What she once overlooked becomes the very thing she now longs for, because a man who speaks can be misunderstood, dismissed, or drowned out. But the man who becomes silent becomes unforgettable. Silence is not emptiness, it's clarity, authority, and self-respect expressed without a single word. But what truly stays with her is not your silence, it's the imprint your exit leaves behind. Silence is the mirror, but the exit is the awakening. Spend the next 24 hours offering zero emotional explanation. Let your boundaries speak in the tone your voice no longer needs to carry. When the noise disappears, you will see the truth of the connection, and so will she. 4. Your absence creates the imprint she can't shake off. Brother. Women forget arguments, but they never forget the man who walked away with dignity. The most unforgettable man in a woman's life is never the one who loved her the loudest. It's the one who loved her quietly, steadily, consistently, and then left the moment he realized he was loving alone. You gave with sincerity. You showed up without hesitation. You cared deeply and completely. But she mistook all of it as something she would always have, something guaranteed, simply because you had never shown her a world where you weren't there. When you remove your presence, you take away more than your physical availability. You strip away the comfort she built her entire behavior on. The contrast becomes overwhelming. You were giving, and now you're gone. You were available, and now you cannot be reached. You cared outward, and now you care inward. That shift is more powerful than any speech, any warning, any plea you could have made. Words can be dismissed, presence can be taken for granted, but absence, your absence, cannot be ignored. It forces a realization she never imagined she would have to face. Your presence was never an obligation. It was a gift she mishandled. That's when the silence begins to hurt. Not because you punished her, and not because you're trying to teach her a lesson, but because reality finally corrected the story she told herself about you. She once believed you stayed because you couldn't leave. She once believed your patience was dependence. She once believed your tenderness was weakness. Only now, in the quiet after your departure, does she understand the truth she never allowed herself to see. You were never weak. You were never clingy. You were never dependent. You were committed. And she only realized the value of that commitment when it vanished from her life. Your absence becomes a psychological imprint, one she can't shake off even when she tries to force herself forward. It becomes the standard she unconsciously compares every future connection to. Even the men she dates later, men who may appear confident or expressive, will feel the shadow of what you once were. Not because you were perfect, but because you left in a way most men don't have the strength to, without chaos, without resentment, without noise. You left with clarity, and clarity has a way of echoing in the mind long after the relationship ends. Your exit becomes the lesson she carries into every relationship after hers. A man like him doesn't come twice. She may not admit it out loud. She may build walls, create narratives, or distract herself with new faces. But the truth settles in her body long before it reaches her mind. Losing a man who walked away with dignity feels different. It lingers. It confronts her. It forces her to acknowledge that she misread love, misread strength, and misread you. But brother, what truly terrifies her isn't losing you. It's who might replace her. She doesn't fear your absence as much as she fears the presence of another woman who will receive everything she dismissed. The emotional security she once assumed becomes a threat the moment she realizes you were never lucky to have her. She was lucky to have you. Tonight, write down 5 things you brought into that relationship that were rare. Your loyalty, your patience, your emotional steadiness, your commitment, your integrity. Look at that list and remind yourself of the truth she only learned when you walked away. You were not lucky to have her. She was lucky to have you. 5. Her real fear isn't losing you. It's being replaced by someone who values you. Brother, she didn't panic when you chased her. She panicked the moment you stopped. Women do not fear abandonment the way men imagine. What they truly fear is replacement, the possibility that another woman will recognize the value they overlooked. That fear cuts deeper than any breakup because it forces her to confront a reality she never considered when you were still holding on. Someone else might gladly receive the version of you she dismissed. For as long as she believed you would stay, she never questioned her behavior. She didn't pause before pulling away. She didn't hesitate when she gave less. She didn't reflect on the imbalance she created. Your loyalty felt permanent, and because it felt permanent, she never asked herself if she was earning it. But the moment you let go calmly, quietly, without punishment or emotional collapse, a new fear appears inside her. What if another woman gets the version of him I never appreciated? It is not jealousy, it's realization. Realization that she misread the dynamic entirely. Deep down, she knows something you sometimes forget when you lose yourself in love. Valuable men don't stay single. Men with boundaries, dignity, emotional discipline, and self-respect are not men who linger alone. They are claimed quickly by women who understand that consistency is precious, loyalty is rare, and emotional stability is attractive. Your calm departure signals something deadly to her ego. You are not broken, not bitter, not waiting for her to change. You are simply done. You are stepping into a future where your peace matters more than her confusion, and she knows exactly what that means. You are available to someone who will not make the same mistakes she did. Now her imagination turns against her. She begins to picture another woman receiving your attention, benefiting from your stability, leaning into the emotional steadiness she once minimized. She imagines someone else being held the way she took for granted. Someone else laughing with you. Someone else waking up to the man she only now realizes she misjudged. This vision haunts her far more than the breakup ever did, because it exposes the truth she tried to bury under pride and detachment. Losing you was not the tragedy. Being replaced by someone who values you is. This is why your ability to let go becomes your greatest leverage, though not in the manipulative sense, rather in the spiritual sense. It communicates self-worth in a language louder than words. It tells her you no longer need her approval to feel whole. It positions you not as a man waiting to be chosen, but as a man choosing his future. And every woman, whether she admits it or not, respects the man who chooses himself. Because a man who can leave is the only man she wants to stay, and that is why she finally values you, not because you begged, not because you explained, not because you fought harder for someone who had already stopped fighting. She values you because you showed her the version of yourself she never believed you had. The man who can love deeply, but who can also walk away decisively. The man who chose her until choosing her required losing himself. The man whose silence wasn't emptiness, but evolution. Brother, she values you only when you value yourself enough to walk away. That's the paradox most men learn too late. Your worth becomes undeniable the moment you stop trying to prove it. And the moment you stop chasing is the moment the truth reveals itself. About her, about you, about the relationship that could never grow in a space where you were giving everything and receiving almost nothing. Tonight, ask yourself one question. If I stop chasing, would she step forward or disappear? Your answer will tell you everything about her intentions and everything about your next move. Brother, if anything in this message hit you in the chest tonight, then don't look away from it. Because this is the part men avoid until life forces them to face it. A woman only values the man who values himself first. And the moment you finally understand that truth, your entire story changes. So let me ask you something and answer it quietly to yourself. With honesty, not pride. Have you ever held on so tightly to someone that you disappeared in the process? Have you ever loved so hard you left yourself behind? If the answer is yes, then this is your turning point. Not tomorrow, not someday. Now, if this message gave you clarity, strength, or even the permission you needed to stop chasing what's been draining you, like the video, subscribe to Stoic Station, and share your thoughts below. Not for the algorithm, but so you can mark this moment as the night you stopped sacrificing your soul for someone who couldn't see your worth. Write one sentence in the comments, I choose myself. Because that choice isn't selfish. It's the foundation of your peace, your power, and your self-respect. It's the line in the sand where the old version of you stops. And the man you were meant to become begins. And remember, brother, a man who can let her go is the man she never forgets. Not because he walked away, but because he finally walked back toward himself. I'll see you in the next lesson. Your journey isn't ending here. It's just beginning.